Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and a Good Vibe. Today we're in the Movement headquarters out here in Playa Vista, and I'm interviewing the Director of Marketing of Movement, Blake Pinsker. Hey Blake, what's up?
It's been a long time no see.
I know, right? I see Blake like every day at the gym because he's killing it, and we're gonna like get into and hack him because he does all these things in his life that obviously like brought him to where he is today. And we're gonna just like, we're so lucky. We're gonna sit down with Blake and we're literally gonna just deep dive into his brain and just hear all about him. So on that note, do you want to just like intro who you are?
Sure.
And a little bit about you and your story?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Blake Pinsker. As Ayesha said, I'm Director of Brand and Marketing at Movement. I've been working with Movement for 6 years. I was the first full-time marketing hire. And that was after a few years getting slapped in the face by the real world, being absolutely miserable with my career. And before that, I was in San Diego State. I nearly got kicked out of San Diego State 2 or 3 times for partying, or there was another time where it was academic related, like grades. And I finally found myself in marketing at the end of college, and I was like, holy shit, this is the first thing in life I'm actually kind of talented at. But I still took the first job out of college in real estate because my dad and other people in my life were telling me that there was no money in marketing. And no offense, but this is horrible. But like my dad was like, marketing is for girls.
I knew you were going to say that.
Which is like, it's so dumb to think about because he had no idea what was going on in the digital landscape, social media, e-commerce. And so that was my natural instinct, and my heart was still pulling in that direction even when I went into real estate. And my friend Jake was the founder of Movement and needed someone to run the social media for dirt cheap. And so I was doing that on the side of my full-time job that I hated. Got kind of good at it. And it ultimately turned into a full-time job where I took over all marketing, had my hands on everything from product design, e-commerce, social media, email marketing, influencer marketing, content strategy, Facebook advertising, you name it. So blessed.
How did you like even know what to do with the position that like?
Well, at that stage, there was the beauty of us being all 23-year-old nobodies.
Yeah. And
we were going up against people who have been in the watch industry for 40, 50, 60 years. And at the time, that was so intimidating because we knew nothing. But that was also our advantage because the one thing we knew was the internet.
Yeah.
And so our competitors were moving incredibly slow on new platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. That was all we knew. So we were moving incredibly fast. And so if we did something wrong, it wasn't a big deal because there was like a core unit of 3 of us on the marketing side, Jake, myself, Spencer, our creative director, and who was my marketing partner in college. And so I brought him on when I started. We actually started this, like a little San Diego State farm system.
No way.
But yeah, in those early days, like when it's just a young nucleus and your back's against the wall and you don't have a history to go against, you're trying everything. And when you fail, you're not giving that much, you're giving no respect to your failures because it's like, okay, we're all just learning here. And now it's much different. Like 6 years in,
you guys are like the icon company,
right? It's like everyone wants to be. You're always trying to one up yourself, and when you now have this track record of 5-6 years to where we've built this to now $100 million company,
I know, it's insane.
All of a sudden, those mistakes are glorified.
Yeah,
they're in the public eye. You have hundreds of thousands of customers who could be influenced by mistakes. So you're definitely under more of a microscope. But at that early stage, it's essential to be scrappy, nimble, fast.
Yeah, I love that. I want to go into kind of like the company now, but just to go back, when Jake approached you about this idea, were you just like, hell yeah, I'm into it? Or were you like, I don't know, were you skeptical? Because I know your family was like real estate.
Sure. So again, Jake was someone I knew from my childhood, and he was always the entrepreneur. And through high school, he had a company that was successful, then failed. So he had one big failure. And then he started Movement and did a big crowdfunding campaign to where I was a broke college kid, wanted to buy a watch to support him, but I was too broke to buy the $70 Movement watch. But I still, obviously sent him my encouragement. And I would call Jake for advice while I was a student because I had client projects in school that were involving Kickstarters. And I just pick his brain. And whenever I'd see him, we talked business. And so that's how he thought. That's part of why he thought of me when this opportunity opened up.
Yeah.
Because he needed somebody who was going to take low pay, who had a marketing background, and could grow with the company. And I was willing to do that. Although when he first reached out, everybody in my circle said, why would you do that? There's no future in that. Movement was nothing. And I did it because I was so seeking that creative outlet and the opportunity to get behind the steering wheel of this luxury car, this potential sports car. You know, at that time, like it looked like a Volvo.
Yeah.
But I was like, we could turn this into a sports car. And we could get to drive this thing. And at the other job I was working, I was just like a button pusher. I was doing admin work, and there was no creativity involved. There was no connection with other employees. And so I really saw the dream and the vision, and that's what got me to say, you know what, although this real estate thing sounds great and I'm learning a ton, until I'm able to buy my own property, it's kind of a waste of my time. I need to figure out how I'm going to build my wealth so I could one day invest and not be working for the investor.
Yeah.
And so that's what really got me, being one of the first people in that company. There was no certainty. Like when I started full time, I took a huge pay cut just to do that. Everybody's like, that's stupid.
I know. I was gonna say, like, when you go all entrepreneurs, you go against the grain, and like and you're very lucky. Like Jake was one of your good friends, so I know your immediate social circle of friends were all like in it. But what would you say to someone out there who's watching this and maybe they're pursuing their side hustle and their parents are just like, stay in school, like, get a conventional job? What would you say to them?
It's something I've learned to do much better over the last year, especially. Because at that stage, I still didn't understand why I made certain decisions or how to make certain decisions. Yeah. But it's really as simple as what your gut is telling you. If you're sitting in school or a job, not just because you don't like it, because you don't think it's going to help you get where you want in life, and your gut is telling you, I could be using this time better, then that's a good sign. And that's something your parents will never be able to read. Your friends will never be able to read. Now, if it's because I don't want to go to school because it's hard, or I don't want to work because it's difficult, even though like think of your dream and your goals, this might be the best place for you to get you there, then you need to reconsider it, because then you're just probably being lazy. So I think like knowing the difference between like your laziness and your creative resistance versus gut feeling, I shouldn't be here and this isn't worth my time.
Yeah, extremely self-aware right there. With going back to movement and like the success of the company, was it always a steady trajectory, or did it have its moments? Was the timeline of the growth, was it very significant?
So it was good from the start.
Yeah.
Because we had a very successful Kickstarter campaign that was due to Jake figuring out how to growth hack.
I've listened to so many podcasts with you guys, so I've heard like the story.
And shameless plug, if you listen to his interview on my podcast, he talks about some of those growth hacks of how he got traction on his Indiegogo. It was actually Indiegogo campaign.
Link that below.
But the growth was good because he also figured out Facebook advertising very early. And so that became a cash machine for us once we figured out Facebook. Spencer and I, we were largely involved on like the creative for Facebook, but Jake was the one who was like, spend money to make money. Customer acquisition makes sense because you need people in your store. If we don't have a storefront in a mall, how are we going to get people to our websites, which is a store? And customer acquisition was that, which still at that time people didn't understand that Facebook marketing could drive the amount of traffic that it does now for so many businesses. And it was dirt cheap at the time. There was a few stages where Facebook would get less efficient than we were typically used to. When you have a bad month, we'd be like, maybe it's the Apple Watch. Maybe people don't want watches anymore. And we kind of freak out. And actually, I just did a keynote where I kind of talked about the importance of brand. And that's where brand becomes really, really important. Because customer acquisition is it's like taking a painkiller. Because if you don't have those painkillers, that pain is going to come back and bite you faster than ever. So that there's ways like rehabilitation and brand is like rehabilitation. It's like keep making sure when you're not on those painkillers that like you are able to bear with all weathers. And like that's why like I took brand marketing so serious when I stepped into movement. We have a great product. Acquisition channels were great. But if all that goes to shit, if Facebook no longer works, which right now it's getting expensive, it's getting harder and harder. Influencer marketing is becoming more saturated. And that's where brand becomes so important. And that's how so many people go out of business because they don't have a strong brand. So when the previous sources of revenue dry up, what are you left with? Brand.
Exactly. And like movement, I feel like set the tone of influencer marketing. Like a lot of companies trying to emulate you guys in your success. How did that like start out? Was that your idea to be like, let's use influencers? Because you guys are the first company to do it.
So I want to, again, Jake is a fucking wizard. And what we realized is that the cost of a watch for somebody posting or taking pictures, it was very lopsided. And so people at those early stages would post for a free watch. And so what we were paying to sometimes sell 100, 200 orders on a post made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of e-commerce. That's why we use codes in a lot of our influencer posts so we could track. We know Joe Schmo posts and he sells 0. We're never going to do a post with him again. But what's an example? One of the bachelorette girls that we work with sells 200, then we're obviously going to keep promoting with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we started early, and we started seeding product, and we slowly started to pay people for posts. Now it's getting harder, and a lot of our focus is in the micro space, which, for those who are doing micro influencer marketing, doing 10 micro influencer posts, it's not going to move the needle. It has to be in heavy volume. So creating the process and the system to reach out to people, which is now like my team's responsibility. And Ethan of our team is he's also like a process wizard.
He's insane.
You know Ethan, right?
Yeah.
Who's also like a bodybuilder at Gold's Gym.
Can't miss him.
Yeah, he's the fucking man. Another guy who went to San Diego State with me, and he has helped implement a ton of incredible processes and systems to help us do micro influencer marketing at scale.
That's amazing. Kind of like segueing into how Movement's always innovating and is always like one step ahead of their competition. I want to go into you, Blake. And how do you stay on top of your game and from like just like your own personal growth, the books you read, mentors, maybe just like I know you are huge into like I see him every day at the gym. He kills it on his routine and all the practices you do. And then also I know you're into personal development. Like you went to the Tony Robbins conference. Like what do you do? What are some non-negotiables you have in your day in your life?
Non-negotiables are certainly waking up. I have a strict morning routine where I call it flush it and flood it. I wake up to a inspirational speech I try to keep fresh, and that gets me the hell out of bed. Today it was 4:45 a.m. I went to boxing. Woke up to go to like a 5:45 boxing class. But anyways, I wake up to like that speech where it's like, okay, it's this guy who lost his arm and it was paralyzed from a football game. No, like an example. Like, and here's this guy like giving this inspirational speech, and I'm not gonna like lollygag here in bed because this is like so inspiring to me. Like, how could I be so lazy? I'm blessed with all that I have. 2 legs, 2 arms, loving people all around me, and I'm gonna lay in bed. So I get the fuck up. I get the fuck up. I do what I call flush it, which is flush my system. So I drink warm water with lemon, sometimes apple cider vinegar. And that weirdly like already kind of wakes me up. Like the lemon and the warm water get me going. You could Google all the health benefits to drinking like the warm water and lemon in the morning, but it's incredibly good for you. I won't go through all the benefits right here. It's good for almost every part of your body and just flushing your system. And then I do what I call flood it, which is either like listening to more motivational shit. If I have time, I'll read for 10, 15 minutes, flood my mind with positive things that are going to better me. And then I go to the gym. And that to me is like my happy place. No matter what else is going on in my world, being able to go to the gym and have that hour to myself is so important, which I know you understand because I see you there every day. Right?
Have you always done that? Like, is that something you've always had in your routine, like even from university or college? I know in the States you was.
So I played basketball my whole life, and that was my athletic meditate. I guess I need daily athleticism.
Yes.
Like when your body's in motion, you feel more emotion, and when you're just like sitting down all day, like you don't feel emotion. I learned from Tony Robbins' seminar that the greatest driver to like happiness in life is emotion. And so like think about when you're active and you're doing stuff and you're around people, like you just feel better. Yeah. And so that's what the gym is for me now. It's my hour where like I can just reset, think, get away from like all the noise in the world and work and all the bullshit and just think. And I have creative epiphanies almost every day in there. It's where I come up with a lot of my ideas.
It's like myself.
A lot of them, they'll get texts from me at that hour. I'm my notebook and my phone. I don't bring my phone out to like text during the gym.
Yeah. I
try to put it on airplane mode, but I write crazy notes because I have ideas pop into my head, and that's when I'm really in a flow state.
Yeah. From like learning in that perspective, how do you always keep learning and growing? Other than like the physical aspect, but like just like with the books you read or the other practices.
Yeah. So my whole life, I've had this crazy desire to continue to better myself. I didn't grow up rich. Matter of fact, my family, a very hardworking family, always had a roof over my head, but we couldn't get anything that was not a necessity or a need. Even like ordering like a soda at dinner was like a no, or like the finer thing, like I got the cheap backpack or the cheap shoes from Payless. Mm-hmm. And so I always wanted to, and I love my family, but I always wanted to give my family, including my parents, more than just that. And so I think that was the initial driver. And then later in life, it's just like the obsession with bettering myself, because we all have flaws. Yeah. And when you're aware of your flaws and you look yourself in the mirror, I'm not talking about like flaws on the outside, but flaws that like I grew up not knowing how to love. And so like relationships, friendships, not showing how to show affection. It's like, that's something I want to really improve in myself. And the same goes for work. I suck at doing Microsoft Excel. I suck at spreadsheets. So I want to really learn how to be better in Microsoft Excel. Yeah. And so like learning how to develop yourself, and my obsession to like become a better leader too, because there's nothing like having your own personal success is one thing. Helping others around you succeed, that is the most incredible feeling, whether it be the people we've hired here, friends, being a leader and being able to elevate those around you with you. That to me is like when I am most fulfilled. I'm uncomfortable when I achieve something on my own. Like the other day, you were talking about my birthday. They put like balloons up that said my name. I was fucking uncomfortable. I didn't want because it was about my friends. Like I had an event because I wanted my friends to like have a good time. I didn't want it to be about like Blake. Yeah. And so I think that like that's what leadership is all about, is elevating those around you. It's easy for an NBA player. I'm going to throw a name out there. I think he's a great player, great fashion. Russell Westbrook, great one-on-one player. But has he really won in a team game? Has he won a ring? No. And you look at a guy like MJ, 6-7 rings, and he elevated the teammates around him. Even though he was a ruthless assassin on the basketball court, he made every player around him better. Magic Johnson is another example. Derek Jeter, another example. Yeah.
Clearly you have like values that are so important to you, and you show them outwards, with just like our conversation we had actually before we started filming. Like we were just talking about success and like what a truly successful and happy and fulfilled life means. And I thought it was so beautiful and something that you guys should all take and learn and really like reflect on and listen to this over and over again. Do you mind like explaining to them about that?
Sure. So I went through this stage when I was in college, when I was in high school, when I wanted the fancy car, the super hot wife, the mansion, the boat, everything. But I didn't know that many successful people. And that's where I really started reading books from a Mark Cuban. Now, listening to guys like Gary Vee.
Yeah.
I use those guys as mentors because I never really had a mentor. I didn't know rich people. Now that I'm in the position I am with movement, I've met and networked with a ton of really, really successful people. And what they tell you is always the same thing. What you think you want isn't really what you want. So you're striving for the fancy things that are the nice watch, the nice car, the nice house. Sure, all that's great. Is that really what is going to make you fulfilled? And the answer is no. And if you're sacrificing relationships, fun, the stuff you really love, which is a lot of times experience-based, for, I just want that shiny object, I just want to show off and show my significance in this world that I'm rich, then that is going to leave you very unfulfilled and unhappy. You talk to anybody out, not anybody, but 95% of the people. And we at Movement Experiences here, like we went through an acquisition where everybody here has equity. Everyone had a little piece. Jake definitely he'll tell you firsthand that big payout comes and you feel the same as you did yesterday. So that was what we were striving for all this time. It's like one day we get acquired, it will set us up for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And you feel the same as you did the day before. If anything, you might even feel a little emptier because you got what you wanted. But what you wanted wasn't really the payout. It wasn't really the money. It's love. It's connection. It's being able to be creative. That is what's going to make you most fulfilled. So yes, hustle hard, strive for the money, but don't forget to celebrate life along the way. And that's what we oftentimes we go through these periods of burnout where we forget to enjoy this ride, enjoy the people that were here. I lost girlfriends, less family time, saw my friends less. And yeah, it worked out because now I can make up for that and fix all that stuff. But at the same time, all that stuff is going to be a key part of my life. And the dream that I want to live one day is the people around me. And so not losing sight of that, I think, is incredibly important.
I love that. And I think that resonates with myself and then so many people watching. How are you going to how do you right now, because you're very grounded and you do incorporate time to really nurture your family and your relationships.
Yeah,
how do you...
I'm getting better.
Yeah, how do you do it?
It's tough. And I opened my network up to a wide array of people. I have an incredible network of people from college. Through Movement, I've met a ton of people in the industry, in the business world. And my family, they live in LA, so it's easier than most for you. You moved across the country.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And you really, to be honest, I'm not perfect at it. I try as hard as I can to bucket time for people that mean the most. And some of my friends who lived all over the country, I rarely see them. But when I'm around them, I realize that I feel my happiest is when I'm around some of my best friends for a while. I almost saw that as a bad thing. It was if I was just hanging out with my friends or having a good time every once in a while, that was going to cost me my dreams or my goals, which is so wrong, so dumb. Yeah. But that's all from the fear that a lot of what you see in the media is instilling in you. And I felt that for a while. It's instilling this fear that you're not good enough, or if you don't spend every second of your day, hustling, you're going to lose. That's not fucking true. That's not you read Mark Cuban's book. Mark Cuban spent a lot. I'm not condoning partying all the time, but going out and I see partying as networking too. Yeah. When you go out and you meet people and we party with people in business all the time. You read Mark Cuban's book. He's going out every weekend raging. Yeah. Mark Cuban's one of the richest guys in the world. And he says, I love going out partying. And the next day I would just read all day hungover. So it's all in how you slice it. And there's so many hours in a day and in a week. You can cut out other shit and still be social still hang out with your friends.
What about dating and entrepreneurship? Let's go there.
Again, like I've had a hard time because I can only sacrifice so much time in my week for a relationship. And so, yes, I've had great relationships. Although the latest one, I wasn't able to sacrifice the time I needed to make it work. Mm-hmm. And so I can't sit here and say I have the perfect answer for you. However, if I met the one that was the one, I better figure it out. I better figure the fuck out, because my dream, like when I paint the picture of my perfect life, where do I want to be in 10, 15, 20 years? I have a beautiful wife by my side. I'm raising a beautiful family. We're playing catch on the beach. And if I'm going to overlook that and it's sitting right in front of me and sacrifice that for this, then like what is the point of this if I'm passing up what I really want? Yeah. And so I think that's key, is like knowing what you really want in life and knowing where to give and take a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, you're so inspiring. Like everything you said today, it just resonates so hard. And that's one of the things about Blake, is that he shares so much. Like you've achieved so much in your life, but you're so giving and you just want to help other people. And that's actually like a perfect plug to his podcast. Like he has a podcast where you have such a great network, and they're all your genuine friends and relationships that you've cultivated. And that shows through with the podcast. Like the guests that he has are genuine, like homies.
Thank you.
That he gets to feature. So what does that element mean? Like, I feel like that is such a big part of you, is like the giving aspect.
Yeah.
So what's next for you on that side of the podcast, your personal brand? I know you're speaking a lot.
Yeah. You know what it came down to? I have amazing conversations with the Rory Kramers of the world, the Sam Colders, the Mark Brazils, the Jake Cassins, to where these are 2-3 hour conversations where I'm like, God, if we shared that, you know how inspiring that would have been for people to get to sit in and listen to that conversation. And I wanted to do more than just an Instagram post. I wanted to do more than just Insta story where it's like, hey, I'm hanging out with Ayesha. And podcasts seem like a awesome medium to do that. I was a huge fan of podcasts myself. You get there and you get to listen to a Scooter Braun or a Gary Vee for an hour. And these are guys that I look up to and aspire to be. And you get to understand how they think, how they act, how they live. And that's why I wanted to start to hit record on the best of who I know, the best of what I know. Yeah. Share that with the world, because again, when I started this thing, I say this quite often. When I started with movement, there was no one I could relate to. There wasn't that many books. E-commerce, like I would look at blogs about e-commerce, but it was hard to find what you could find today. And so now I was like, if I have an opportunity to give somebody if I could be a resource for that next generation of e-commerce wizards and marketing superstars, then hell yeah, I want to do that.
I love that. And that's is that what's next for you? So on the personal brand side, are you looking to do more speaking? Like what's the goal behind the podcast?
Sure. So yeah, actually I just put out a keynote on branding, which I had so much fun. I went to Quebec in Canada, did like a 30-minute keynote.
I saw the story. You guys need to follow him.
I love Canada. I mean, you're from Canada. It's such amazing people.
Loved you.
The hosts of the seminar were super welcoming to us. Yeah. And I was very proud of this keynote. So go check it out. To me, it was like very, very much from the heart about, like I get very passionate about talking about brand, which we didn't really even talk about much today. You know what it was? It was the first time I had spoken in front of a crowd. I got the same exact feeling that I used to get when I walked onto the court or the field when I was playing sports in high school. And that was a feeling that I missed, the adrenaline. The crowd cheering and roaring, and you can't think straight. And that was how I felt when I walked on the stage. And I just love that rush and the ability to speak to people and share what I've learned. And so I'm hoping to do a lot more of that. I got my keynote in a place where I was like, if I could tour and do this keynote, I would.
Sick. Almost like you have a keynote.
Yeah, almost like a DJ going around to festivals. Yeah. I would now want to like share this with the world. And so, yeah, it's up on my YouTube. I'm going to post more on Instagram as well.
The podcast, booming.
Yeah, podcast is great. And another thing with those two, so those are like my side hustle.
Mhm.
And so I told myself that I would not let it distract me from, one, my work at Movement, two, consulting stuff I'm doing. When I have a keynote, like I'm all in on that. And so people are like sitting at that, they're like, give us more.
Yeah.
And I want to give you more, and I will. And trust me, I'm working my ass off to make sure I produce as much content and quality interviews as I can. So stay tuned. As I grow, I'm getting more efficient and I'm getting faster and I'm getting better. You're amazing because you're putting a ton of these. Like you recorded with Mark this week. Now you're doing me.
And it's like the production of it.
Good for you. I know how hard
like
this whole thing is. So it's good for you.
You.
Yeah.
But like you said, like if you're in like you're grateful enough to like be having these conversations, then I feel like it's like a duty of mine to like share it with the world, because I think there's so much to go around for everyone. And if I can help anyone in any way, I'm always like, how can I serve? How can I provide value?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so grateful for your time, because you're so much like that. And everyone who is so successful and who's like actually like a genuine person who's true to their values are so open to give, and you guys can like.
Yeah. It sounds cliche. We hear it all the time. We hear Gary Vee yell it, and like, it sounds so cliche. I used to not be a giver.
Really?
No. And I grew up like not getting along with my siblings.
I heard on a podcast your story that you were mean.
I was a dick.
Yeah, I heard that on a podcast.
Oh, and it not.
You're so nice.
Okay, so those close to me, I was always very, very warm and loving. But if you were on the outside,
why?
Like,
where did it come from?
It was almost like it's like I tell people this all the time. When you're outside my circle, like it's gonna take some time for you to get in that circle. You really have to show me you can be in this circle. When you're in that circle, I fucking hold you like a fucking bear.
Yeah.
And anyone who's in my circle will tell you that. Like I really am there for people, and I really appreciate the essence of relationships, friendships. And so, growing up, I didn't get along well with my siblings, which caused a lot of like, frustration and anger in me, but I also didn't share a lot. We didn't share stuff. Mm-hmm. If my sister wanted a bite of my food, I'd say no. Mm-hmm. And so as I got older, again, just like realizing my flaws, I was like, this is not good that like when someone asks me for a bite of my burrito that I don't want to give it to them. And then I had friends who were like the most giving people I'd ever met. And I'm like, God, that's why I like him. That's why I'm friends with him. So like, first of all, why is he friends with me? If I'm not no. And then I told myself, it was actually like a New Year's resolution a few years ago. And I've always had like the desire to coach. I wanted to be a basketball coach when I was young. And so that was like a way of giving that I didn't really realize was giving at that stage. But now it's like, it's giving as far as helping those around me become elevated in their life and career, showing other people good times, whether it's experience-based, helping other people in e-commerce, because like Steven, who I was telling you about, who you should interview, cuts clothing. My buddy from college, now he's running a multi-million-dollar t-shirt company and knew nothing about e-commerce or any of this. He wanted to start his own company, and we try to help him as much as we can to get his feet going, and now he's killing it. He's an absolute beast. And that seeing that success where a friend was like miserable in his career and his life, was able to start his own company, and we were able to help him and mentor him at that early stage. That is the coolest thing, because now we can have conversations eye to eye about business and life and e-commerce. So anyways, that was a long-winded fucking answer, but yes, that was hopefully a deeper answer than like a lot of the cliche give, provide value. I hope that lends you some reason to do that.
That's good. No, and then a lot of people, I remember with Mark, we were talking about it last year, like people want to provide value, but they don't know how. So it's like kind of like where you can actually provide value.
It takes time.
Yeah.
I consider it to planting a seed. A lot of times we get frustrated because we give somebody 30 minutes or we want to talk to somebody and they don't want to talk to us. They want to blow us off. Let's say it's like an influencer. You might have just planted a seed and you got to water that thing And it might take 1, 2, 3 years. Some of the people I'm closest with that are influential took 2 years for me to actually like sit down and go on a hike with or have a deep conversation with.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I didn't just say like, fuck them, they won't give me the time of day. Why would they? I hadn't given them a reason to give me the time of day. I had to earn that. And a lot of times it takes time to really build that and prove that like, hey, I'm worth your fucking time because you're a busy person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just think of it like planting a seed.
Nurturing
the seed, watering it, waiting for it to grow. One day it will sprout.
Mm-hmm. Being patient. Oh my God, what's your 2 cents on patience? Find like.
So here's what I think about patience. I think that movement's greatest advantage was that we moved incredibly fast. So you have to move incredibly fast, and you can't be patient in the sense that like, I'm patient, so I'm going to go home and play video games and just chill on the couch, smoke a blunt, watch Netflix, and I'm not where I want in life.
Yeah.
That's bad patience.
Yeah.
But if you're hustling, then yeah, being patient is a good thing because like I'm not going to have my dream house tomorrow. I'm not gonna. If I'm impatient and like I want a beautiful wife one day, I'm gonna marry the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm impatient in business, I'm gonna make a lot of really, really bad decisions because I want it too fast. So like I think it's a balance. And I know Mark's theory on this, and I get where he's coming from. It's extreme, like fuck patience, and that's where speed comes in. But I think like not letting lack of patience cloud your decision making is
going with your gut. You said that earlier.
Yes.
Like a mesh of those things, and you're very self-aware. Like you know what you want. You're very like intentional and grounded, and I feel like that comes through with like everything you do in your life and how you wake up, how you start the day, the people you spend time with, and I find like all of it, it's like puzzle pieces to creating that.
Right.
So I feel like you guys have to take like what serves you. That's the point of these interviews too. It's like take what serves you. Like I find like I try to get different personalities and different types of entrepreneurs and like take what pieces of everyone and make it your own. Like what works for you.
I'll say something as well. So I started reading when I was late in college and I struggled to read. I had ADD. I'd read a page and then I wouldn't be able to focus after that. And slowly but surely, I started to gain more knowledge, more intellect. But it wasn't that relatable yet. And you don't feel different after you read 15 pages of a book. You don't feel that different after you read a book. You don't feel that different after you listen to a podcast. But over time, doing that consistently and putting an hour to read or listen to podcasts or consume content that's going to better you rather than doing something for an hour that's not going to better you, like watching a movie, watching TV, sleeping for an extra hour when you don't need to. Doing that over time, like you look back five years, and you're like, holy shit, I'm so sure of myself. I know what I want in life. I feel like my intellect is so far beyond what I was 5 years ago, but you don't feel that day in and day out. And so you really have to like trust the process. Yeah. I'm serious. And so that's where I think the patience comes in. Because like if I read a book and I'm like, fuck, I'm not rich yet.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't have what I want yet. My business isn't a $200 million company yet. It's not going to happen that fast. And you're going to, like, there's no point to even get mad about that. But like over time, doing what it takes to just better yourself, better your business, that you're going to look back and be like, holy shit, like who I was 5 years ago is a completely different person.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think like even 5 years from now where you're going to be because you keep these things and stuff.
Right.
That's amazing. I'm like loving everything we have so far. I kind of want to like just hear it now. What are you excited about for movement? Like what's coming in your life, business, personal,
sure.
In general, are you excited for?
So we're getting to do my dream campaign this year, which is our biggest brand campaign of all time, which is in the works right now. So far we have Nyjah Houston involved, who is the biggest skateboarder of all time, arguably. He'll be in the Olympics next year. He's going to be probably the captain of the U.S. skateboarding team. It's the first ever skateboarding as an Olympic sport. First time it's ever been in the Olympics. We're obviously still like working with Sam Calder. We have a few other big artists we want involved in this campaign that we're running. For me, like to get to do a movement brand campaign that's like the KPI, key performance indicator, isn't like we just need to sell watches. It's like let's build the brand. Let's increase brand awareness. All comes back to brand. Which like for me, like doing that through social media, email marketing, content has been a huge focus. But we don't have huge budgets for it. Like we were bootstrapped. We just got bought, but I've been saying this, we're broker than ever because we're. I mean, when you get to a certain size and you're at such a rapid growth stage, your expenses go up, and you also you're oftentimes just more profitable at an early stage. But right now we're getting to muster up the budget for this big brand campaign, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like creatively, like it's everything we've kind of created into the brand into this campaign. That's going to drop later this year. We're working on a really cool collab with Jeff Cole from he's also founder of Iconic, incredible digital artist. A Ayesha collab, which I mentioned. So that's some of the stuff on the movement forefront. We're going to have some new categories next year as well. New categories this summer.
Damn.
Can't really speak on it yet, but just know it's men's jewelry. It's like a month and a half away. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna say. So we're gonna drop men's jewelry this summer.
That's gonna be killer.
It's a real sneak peek. No one's put that out in the wild yet. So
shit, you heard it here first.
Let's see what else we got coming. I'm always working on stuff on the side. Like to me, this is like a game. And so I'm always working on little side projects, little side businesses.
Lots of stuff, guys. Lots of stuff. I'm going to have everything linked below in the show notes for podcast and also in just link below for YouTube. I want to thank you so much for your time. I know this went longer because I just you're so good at speaking and I just didn't want to stop. I want to just get it all out. Let's just end it on a high. One thing you would like to leave the audience with, just like one piece of advice, one quote, one saying, anything you want.
Yes. I said this to you when you walked in. And I realized this over the past year. So many people out there are trying to be made off their perception. Your perception won't make you. You will make you. So who you are at your truest form, that's your uniqueness. That's your differentiation. And there are people out there that make it off being fake, flaunting, flashing, flexing. But guess what? Those are the people who get what they want and they end up really unhappy because it's not authentic. It's not genuine. So make sure you make you and your perception isn't making you. Fuck perception. Be you.
Yes.
And now I'm in a place where I'm so comfortable with me. I'm fucking weird sometimes. I'm not perfect. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the smartest, sharpest tool in the shed. You don't you just be you at your truest self, and people will really appreciate that, and you'll be much happier because you're not glorified by this persona, glorified by who you are. That's the greatest feeling when you're recognized for Ayesha at your core. That's the real shit.
That's insane. Well, that was such a great note to end it on. I'm not going to say anything more, but thanks so much for watching. If you guys love this, I know you guys are probably raving right now, go show Blake some love. Go hit him up on social, on his podcast, on everything, and tell him where you found him. At Blakey P. We'll pop it up on the screen. Yeah. She'll spell it at Blakey P. Dare to be Legendary is the podcast. Thank you, Ayesha. That was really fun. Thank you so much. Yeah. See ya.